Ever just want to feel miserable for no apparent reason? What if we tied anime to this feeling? Welcome to the top 10 most tragic and heartbreaking anime ever made. Or how I like to call it, bitch, you gonna cry. This is a compilation of anime that will thug at your heartstring harder than a puppy getting run over by a truck after looking for his master for 5 episodes. If this image is too rough for you, don't watch any of these anime. You're not emotionally prepared enough for them. Of course, everyone has their own chords that make them weak in the knees, so if one doesn't particularly work for you, don't dismiss this entire list. There's enough variety to go around that one will eventually punch you right in the dick. Metaphorically, of course. Number 10, Akamega Kill. Starting off rather easy with Akamega Kill. If you've seen the anime and are feeling puzzled by its inclusion in this list, perhaps you're not one who's too sensitive to death in general. It does reach a point where it's easy to get desensitized to the tragedy that happens in the show, but if you allow yourself to get attached to the characters, it will hit you like a ton of bricks. The story begins with a small town adventurer who makes it to the big city along with his friends. After some unfortunate turn of events, he ends up joining a crew of vigilantes, and together they try to right off some wrongs, whilst having quite a lot at stake. In a show where nothing is either black or white, you end up having a lot more sympathy for the characters, even though they should be perceived as the bad guys. A bit of an acquired taste in terms of ending, but a pleasant ride all the way through.
死んだ人間を生き返らせるテーグもあるかもしれねえ。そうだろ？
大丈夫。今日はトリプルレースで勝負？かけてっから。
Number 9, Mawaru Penguin Drum, a sad story about a girl who's clutched to a hospital bed and how her brother decides to take her out for one day at the aquarium, but then start a series of events sending them on a wild goose chase. It's one of those anime I can't tell you more about it without ruining some key points, so trust my opinion, as you always do, when I say it's well worth your time. It's one of those shows where when you get to the ending, all of the puzzle pieces fall together, and it paints a really nice picture. Highly recommend this one, even if it's just number 9. For real, like, when have I ever been wrong recommending you an anime? Except that one time, and that other one, but besides that, I'm pretty flawless.
無理だよ。
少佐の瞳と同じ色です。
Number 8, Violet Evergarden. You'll never feel attached to an inanimate object the same way you will for this anime. Violet Evergarden is a jaw-dropping, gushing-worthy, beautiful anime about a young girl who's been raised as a tool of war and now feels like she has become obsolete in this war-free world. She refurbished herself as a postal office glorified mailmaid while seeking to deliver the words of the only person she remembers in her heart. A bit of a slow burn on this one, but it still packs quite a punch in the shedding hours. There's a lot about introspection and feeling lost, so if this speaks to you, consider trying it out.
でかいな。
問題ありません。
Number 7, Plastic Memories. If none managed to make you choke up so far, I'm about to dial it up with Plastic Memories. The premise of this show is in a world where people live with artificial intelligence robots. These robots serve everyday life purposes, from being a helpful farmer buddy to doing mundane office tasks. They can help elderly, visually impaired people, there's all kinds truly. But just like humans, they have an expiration date, a time where they must get shut down before becoming defective and becoming a threat to society. The main character is a retriever of sort. He's the one to go about and basically kill these robots, along with his sidekick, Isla, who's also a robot, so she can relate to them. There's a lot of social commentary on this one, like subject of euthanasia, or more glaringly, just death in general, and therefore the acceptance of it. Number 6, Orange. Still not heavy enough for you? Have you tried Orange? Not the color, not the fruit, the anime. A story about a high school girl who one day receives a letter from her older self telling her one of her close friends is about to die and that she must prevent this from happening. Also stating that her life in the future is full of regrets, so she urges her to make active change to turn that fate around. Unfortunately, building a new future also comes to the cost of the happy things you have being lost. Take me, for example. I'm happily married with 2 beautiful daughters. Say I send a letter to my past self to change one small detail and forcing me to never meet my current wife in exchange of pursuing a different life goal, therefore erasing the lives of my 2 daughters in the process. Yeah, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Don't take my kids, man. Number 5, Anohana, one of the most famous sob story when it comes to anime. The plot of Anohana follows a group of friends who have drifted apart years later after a specific incident and how they try to reconnect back together to try and surmount it. It's a very heavy tale, but also one I strongly recommend for people looking for some very real characters with their flaws and just that gritty take on reality. I'm kind of walking on eggshell on this one because it's a show you benefit mostly from knowing as little as possible going in, but despite that, it's rather slow paced. It's one that's gonna give you some lasting thoughts several weeks after being done with the show.
John.
Number 4, Clannad After Story. You just want to feel like garbage? This is sad sturbation dialed up to 11. You'll never see someone as unlucky as Tomoya, the main character. To be fair, this anime begins with Clannad, and then After Story is technically the 2nd season, but I've always been an advocate of skipping the 1st season. Many disagree with that statement, so choose your poison accordingly. Point being, I think Clannad has been recognized for the longest time by the entire anime community as the most tragic possible show available. A story about a guy that meets and falls in love with a girl who has been out of school for a while due to her poor immune system, but now she's back. To be fair, like, he kind of walks himself in there. Like, there's a giant disclaimer about this whole thing. Number 3, Tokyo Magnitude 8.0. Thank God I've seen this anime before I had my daughters. I could not believe how harder this would have hit me otherwise. Okay, so this is another one of those shows where I can't tell you anything beyond the premise, but that should be sufficient to get you hooked. The show begins with 2 very young kids. Mirai, the sister, is 13. Her brother, Yuki, is 8. One day during the summer, whilst the parents have to work, you know, like real life, they tell Mirai to bring Yuki to a robot museum, forcing her to babysit her brother. Not allowed to refuse, they go. When the place is hit by, insert title of anime, a really powerful earthquake. Thankfully, they make it out of the building safely, but then they have to go back home amidst the rubble caused by the earthquake and therefore the calamity that came out of it. That's all I'm giving you, but hold on. Don't watch it if you have kids. Number 2, Angel Beats, an odd mix of comedy and sadness that will have you laugh 1 second and cry the next one. Angel Beats is a story about a guy who wakes up on a brand new school ground and is given the task of killing an angel who supposedly hold them captive here. The show suffers a bit from having a lot of character all at once, but everyone has their own side story and you get to see them deal with acceptance of their situation, their upbringing, and ultimately their fate as well. Shout out to the soundtrack of this show though, one of the best one I've listened to all around. Also personally I found some segments of the anime sadder than the actual ending of it, but that may be because I was expecting the twist and found it predictable at the end, but you tell me.
記憶なしよ。やるよ。気をつけ。
Alright, I'm putting a one-time deal honorable mention slot through this list because I think I'd be remiss not to talk about it. Assassination Classroom. Here's the thing, the whole thing is disclosed from day one. The entire premise of the show is to do that one thing that they're trained for, and for the most part, the anime is incredibly upbeat about it. Cheerful comedy and the occasional action scene. And even though from the beginning they tell you, hey, we're gonna do that one thing at the end just so you know, it fucking crushes you. So far in this list, these entries maybe they've made you sad, maybe you've spilled a tear or two. This anime will flat out make you sob. It's the embodiment of, bitch, you gonna cry. And you know the worst part? Even after me warning you and saying all this, you'll go in thinking you're a tough guy. Bitch, you gonna cry.
しかもあのタコ音速飛行中にテストの採点までしてるんだぜ。
マジで？
And finally, number one pick, Youre in April. A piano player who has been forced to play the instrument by his mother for years gets to drop it once she passes away. Finally free from her clutch, Rima meets Kaori one day, a cheerful, wonderful girl who plays violin. Her beauty and joy inspire him to pick music back up, realizing he never truly hated the instrument itself, and thus rekindling his passion for the art. Together they grow and a romance starts to blossom between the two. The music along is just worth experiencing for yourself, but of course I'm leaving behind the very ominous reason this anime is on this list. That's gonna be for you to figure out. Hopefully you've never seen it and you can experience the anime for yourself. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, I'll say this much, and I do hope you don't get spoiled. Alright, so let's assume, yeah, Misty, that's all good and everything, but I just don't have 40 episodes worth of time to develop attachment to a character and whatnot. Do you have anything that would give me good cry in a more bite-sized format? To which I will say, wow, way to be picky, but yes, I do! Here are 5 anime movies that I can recommend you that will squeeze out some H2O from your cold, dead soul.
もう毎年言ってたんだから大丈夫だって。
Number 5. Watarubi no Morie, Into the Forest of Fireflies Light, is an absolutely wholesome and heartwarming tale before it basically take your heart and dunk it from the top of the Eiffel Tower. A story about a 6-year-old girl who wanders into a forest and get lost. She meets a strange boy spirit who leads her out of the forest, so every year she promises to come back and they can hang out together. The only rule is that they can never touch or the boy will disappear. Would make for some very awkward sex. One second you're getting it on and the next you're suddenly naked with your legs spread out at the sun. That's how you get a coochie sunburn. You use comedy as a scapegoat mechanism because it's too hard to face the reality instead.
ずっと一緒に行きたいと思っていたんだ。
あかり、高木くん。
Number 4, 5 centimeters per second. 5 centimeters per second is one of Makoto Shinkai's early work. Perhaps you're familiar with his latest title like Withering With You, or more famously, Your Name. 5 centimeters per second is a compilation of 3 different stories all under the umbrella of one movie. The general theme of this one is basically boiled down to life. How you get close to someone and how you must eventually get ripped apart from one another as you inevitably drift onto different paths. Remember your friends from high school? You still talk to them? Or if you're still in high school, then what about those in elementary school? You keep in touch? Lucky you. Number 3, Koe no Katachi. This is the story of a deaf girl who's been bullied in school due to her handicap. Several years later, the bully has started feeling remorse for his action and has decided to become a better person. He tries to reconnect with the girl he once harassed, and it's a very powerful change of heart. It's my editor's favorite anime movie. Ain't that right, Louie? Remember the part she goes, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Right, Louie? Number 2, Grave of the Fireflies. Anyone who has something to say about this movie can't prevent themselves from spoiling it, so I'll be the one person you can safely turn to tell you about the story without ruining it. Grave of the Fireflies is an oldish movie from 1988 based on an even older setting, the World War II. Two very young siblings, a 14-year-old boy and his 4-year-old sister, end up stranded in Japan during the war as Americans bombard the heck out of the country, or whatever's left of it. Their parents are dead, and they must do whatever they can to survive in this incredibly pathetic world. It's gut-wrenching, and someone ruined the ending for me, and I'm still very mad about it. And the number 1 saddest anime movie is Wolf Children. This is a family-friendly experience, a story about a young girl who met the love of her life in college and soon realizes he's not entirely human. Eventually she gives birth to the 2 children and she must raise them as a single mom. Unfortunately, she also discovers her kids has inherited the trait from their father, and she comes to the conclusion that a dense Tokyo-like urban city might not be the best fit for them. She moves to the countryside and tries to do her best to raise them unruly kids. It's an amazing movie and I highly recommend it. Are you sad yet? I'd expect you don't have any liquid left in your body after going through the entire list. You're probably wondering, why am I redoing a bunch of top 10s anime video I've already covered in the past? Well, for 2 reasons actually. One of which is being the fact that copyrights have cannibalized almost the entirety of my library from the 2014 to 2016 era. And secondly, well, since these topics were made 5 years ago, a lot of the info on them have become obsolete. Either because new anime have came out that clearly surpasses those original entries, or simply because my personal tastes have changed throughout the years. So I guess what I'm saying is, in the upcoming weeks, I will be going back through my previous collection of top 10s lists that I've done in the past that I feel are not relevant or simply watchable anymore, and redo them so it fits a bit more the current time and also my personal taste, while being relatively objective at the same time, or as much as I can make them. If that sounds like something you would enjoy, I urge you to subscribe to my channel, hit that bell, and like this video. Let me know in the comment section below if there's a topic you'd find more pressing, and we'll crush it together. Sorry I made you wait. I've been gone for a while, but I'm back. See you next time!
Hard times, I've been on the wrong side, I've been ashamed. So many memories, you know I'd like to change.